The year is 1822. The place is the Western Indian Ocean, where heat presses down like a hand on the throat, and the sea smells of salt, iron, and rot. Dawn breaks slowly, staining the water a dull red, as wooden hulls drift towards shore. From a distance, they look like merchant vessels. Up close, they sound different. Not the rhythm of trade, but the muffled coughing of human cargo. If you've ever wondered what history tried to erase, what was hidden behind polite words like commerce and maritime exchange, you are about to witness it. Subscribe now, because every view revives voices that were meant to vanish without a trace. Along the coast of East Africa, near what is now modern-day Zanzibar and the Swahili coast, the air is thick with humidity and fear. Palm trees sway gently, indifferent. The surf rolls in and out, steady, eternal. But on the beach, time has stopped for those who are forced to kneel in the sand, wrists bound with fibre rope that cuts deeper with every movement. They are not soldiers. They are not criminals. They are farmers, fishermen, children, mothers. One of them is a boy, no more than 14 years old. His name, recorded later only as a scratch symbol in a shipping ledger, has been lost. But his memory survives in fragments. The way his feet burned on the sand, the taste of blood where he bit his lip to keep from crying out, the sound of his sister breathing beside him. Fast, shallow, terrified. Behind them stand men armed with blades and muskets, speaking a language foreign to the coast. They wear layered robes suited not for this heat, but for authority. Their leader carries a seal, pressed later into wax on documents that still exist in fragments in port archives in Muscat and coastal trading records in Bombay. The seal marks ownership, control, permission. This is not a raid. This is a system. By the early 19th century, Persian Gulf powers and merchant elites had extended their reach deep into East Africa. Officially, they traded spices, ivory, dates, and cloth. Unofficially and increasingly openly, they traded in people. Human beings were catalogued beside cargo. Heights, teeth, muscle strength, temperament, survivability. Imagine standing there, knowing that every vow you held sacred, family, land, name, could be stripped from you in a single morning. What would you do? The ships wait offshore, rocking gently. Their decks are scrubbed clean, but below, the holds are dark, airless cavities designed to maximize space. Chains clink softly as they are lifted from crates. The sound carries across the water like a warning bell no one is allowed to hear. The boy watches as an older man collapses beside him. Exhaustion. Dehydration. Fear. A handler strikes the man once, not in anger, but in routine. When the man does not rise, he is dragged aside. There is no ceremony, no record, just absence. Foreshadowing hangs heavy in the air. Those who survive the crossing will be sent north, to ports along the Persian Gulf, inland estates, urban households, shipyards. Some will never see sunlight again, except through lattice windows. Some will be renamed. Some will be erased so completely that future generations will argue over whether they ever existed at all. And yet, this moment, this beach, this morning, was documented. In shipping manifests dated between 1815 and 1845, historians later found discrepancies. Cargo weights that didn't match goods. Provisions meant for far more units than listed crew. Letters from coastal agents complaining of losses due to heat and resistance. Euphemisms. Always euphemisms. The boy does not know any of this. He only knows the rope is tightening as he is pulled to his feet. He only knows the sea, once a symbol of life and trade, now feels like a mouth opening to swallow him whole. The camera of history would like to turn away here. It usually does. But stay, because what happens next, on the open water, in the holds of these ships, and inside the minds of those who enforce this system, reveals something far darker than brutality. It reveals calculation, justification, a belief that suffering could be organised, optimised, and defended as normal. Every second now matters. Every choice, from resistance to silence, will mean life or death. Could anyone survive what comes next? And if they did, what part of them would remain? The tide is rising, the first chains are locked, and the ships begin to move. This is only the beginning. By the time the shoreline dissolves into a thin green line, the rules change. On deck, the men in control move with rehearsed precision. This is not chaos. This is administration. Orders are given calmly, rations are counted, shackles are checked for rust. Every movement reflects experience passed down through ledgers and letters, through instructions written far from this coast, in cool rooms where suffering was an abstract concept, measured in profit and loss. Below deck, the air turns heavy almost immediately. The hold is barely tall enough to sit upright. Bodies are arranged side by side, then layered, human geometry, designed to defeat space itself. The smell arrives first. Sweat, fear, salt water, old wood soaked with the memory of previous voyages. Then the heat. Then the realization that breathing will never again feel effortless. The boy is pushed forward. A metal collar snaps shut around his neck. The sound echoes, a small final click that feels louder than the ocean above. His sister is separated from him without explanation. He tries to turn. A blow lands between his shoulders. Not violent, efficient. Up above, the ship's overseer opens a small leather-bound book. Inside are columns. Dates, numbers, notes written in sharp, deliberate strokes. Some entries are in shorthand, codes understood only by those inside the trade. One line reads simply, cargo secured. Minor resistance. Acceptable loss. Acceptable. If you've ever wondered how ordinary people become part of extraordinary cruelty, this is where the answer begins. Not in rage, but in routine. The antagonistic force here is not a single villain. It is a network. Merchant houses stretching from the Persian Gulf to South Asia, financed through partnerships, protected by influence, justified through selective morality. Coastal agents recruit inland raiders. Ship captains enforce discipline. Urban buyers await delivery. Each person touches only one link in the chain and claims innocence because of it. On deck, a young crewman hesitates as he looks down the hatch. He hears coughing, whispers, a low rhythmic sound, someone humming, maybe praying, maybe just trying to remember a melody from home. For a moment, something flickers across his face. Then the hatch closes. Darkness returns below. Psychological tension tightens like a rope pulled from both ends. In the hold, panic spreads invisibly. People test their restraints. Someone cries out for water. Another tries to stand and collapses, crushing those beneath. The boy presses his forehead to the wooden plank in front of him, counting breaths, fighting the urge to scream. He tells himself, survive the next minute. Then the next. Above, the sea is calm. Letters from this era still exist, fragments preserved in colonial archives and private collections. In one, a coastal intermediary complains about unreliable stock due to inland resistance. In another, a ship owner advises tighter confinement to reduce losses during transit. These are not monsters writing these words. They are businessmen. Fathers, respected members of their communities. Notice how history tried to erase the voices below deck. You are seeing them now because someone, somewhere, failed to destroy every record. Days pass. Or maybe weeks. Time becomes liquid. Water is rationed. Food is tossed down without ceremony. Disease spreads quickly in the dark. Fever, dysentery, infections from iron rubbing against skin. When someone dies, the response is immediate and unemotional. Chains are unlocked. The body is dragged upward. The hatch opens briefly. Light floods in. Then a splash. No prayers, no names, just weight removed. The boy watches this happen twice, 3 times. Each time the ship feels lighter. Each time the silence afterward grows heavier. Above deck, tension simmers differently. Crew members argue over discipline. Supplies run low. The fear here is not moral, it is financial. Too many deaths mean questions at port. Too much resistance means delay. Delay means loss. One night, the ship creaks under a sudden storm. Waves slam against the hull. Water leaks into the hold. Panic erupts. People scream, thrash, beg. For a moment, just a moment, the system wavers. A decision must be made. Open the hatch and risk rebellion. Or keep it sealed and risk mass death. The hatch stays closed. Every choice here reveals the hierarchy of value. Survival is conditional. Humanity is negotiable. Comment where you are watching from. And share this story with someone who needs to see how quietly systems of cruelty are built. Because these truths were never meant to survive. As the storm passes, dawn returns. The ship sails on, scarred but intact. Below deck, fewer voices answer when names are whispered. Fewer breaths fill the dark. The boy is still alive. But something inside him has shifted. Fear has hardened into something else. An alertness, a silent resistance forming not in action, but in memory. He begins to observe. To remember faces. To count days by meals. To memorize the sound of the hatch opening. Because somewhere ahead lies land again, and whatever waits there will demand more than survival. The ship turns slightly north, and the true cost of this system is about to reveal itself. When land finally appears again, it is not relief that spreads through the hold. It is dread. The smell changes first. Not the open green scent of forests or rain, but smoke, oil, stone heated by sun. The ship slows as it approaches a fortified harbour along the northern Indian Ocean, a place whose name appears repeatedly in 19th century port ledgers, though never beside the word human. Only units, arrivals, deliveries completed. Below deck, bodies stir weakly. Some do not stir at all. The boy feels the ship's motion change, the subtle pull of ropes, the scraping sound of wood against dock. Light spills through the cracks above. For the first time in weeks, voices overhead carry excitement. Negotiation. Anticipation. Money about to change hands. Every second matters now. The hatch opens fully. Sunlight crashes down like a physical blow. People cry out, shielding eyes that have forgotten brightness. The heat is sharper here, dry and punishing. Guards descend with clubs and whips, not yet striking, just reminding. Authority must be re-established before fear becomes action. One by one, the captives are forced onto the dock. They are thinner, smaller, changed. The boy's legs nearly give out when his feet touch stone. He tastes iron in his mouth. His sister is nowhere in sight. He searches faces desperately, then stops. He has already learned what searching costs. Around them rise walls of pale stone. Banners snap in the wind. Watchtowers overlook the harbour. This place was built to endure. And now, to receive. If you've ever wondered what it feels like when survival collides with obedience, this is the moment. They are herded into a courtyard. Water is thrown, not given, into a trough. People fall over each other to reach it. Those who drink too fast vomit. The guards watch carefully. Weakness must be identified early. A man with a ledger steps forward. He does not look at faces, only bodies. He presses fingers into arms, checks teeth, forces mouths open, lifts chins. Marks are made beside numbers. Decisions are being written that will define entire lifetimes. Here the psychological cruelty deepens. Families are separated deliberately. Stronger individuals pulled aside. Children grouped together. Those deemed unfit moved toward a shaded corner near a rear gate. No one explains what that means. The absence of explanation is the point. The boy is taken by the shoulder and turned sideways. His chest is measured with a rope. He is made to walk back and forth. He hears a brief exchange above him, calm, transactional. Then a nod. He belongs to someone now. In later decades, administrative records and estate inventories would confirm what happens next. Names replaced with labels, origins simplified to regions, lives compressed into function, labour, domestic service, maritime work, invisible roles that sustained entire economies while remaining officially unacknowledged. The boy is marched through narrow streets. Stone walls block the sea from view. Doors close behind them as they pass. He notices details without meaning to. Cracks in plaster, the sound of his bare feet on stone, the way people avert their eyes. At night he lies on a hard floor beside strangers. Chains are lighter now, but still present. Sleep comes in fragments. Every sound jolts him awake. Somewhere nearby, someone is crying quietly, trying not to be heard. This is the crisis history rarely describes, not the capture, not the voyage, but the moment when resistance feels impossible, and the mind begins to bargain. If I obey, maybe I live. If I forget, maybe it hurts less. He remembers his sister's breathing on the beach. He remembers the song from the hold. He repeats both silently, over and over, afraid that forgetting them would mean surrendering the last proof he ever existed before this place. Others make different choices. One man refuses to eat. Another speaks only in his native tongue despite punishment. A woman scratches symbols into the wall at night with a shard of stone, marks that will later puzzle archaeologists who find them beneath layers of plaster. Small acts. Dangerous acts. Punishment is swift. Isolation. Reduced rations. Public beatings designed not only to hurt the body, but to instruct the mind. Fear is curated here, delivered with precision, and yet something unexpected happens. The boy notices that those who endure longest are not always the strongest. They are the ones who cling to something invisible. A memory. A promise. A quiet refusal to let the system define the entirety of who they are. This realization terrifies him more than the chains. Because it means survival is no longer just physical, it is psychological warfare. And the system knows it. Records from this period mention disciplinary efficiency and behavioural management. They do not mention the nightmares. The dissociation. The way time fractures when every day is identical and every choice is constrained. Weeks pass. Or months. He loses count. Then one evening, as the courtyard empties and shadows stretch long across the stone, the boy hears a whisper, not from above but beside him. A warning, a plan, a rumour of resistance. He does not know if it is real, but for the first time since the beach, his heart does not sink. It tightens, because whatever is coming next will demand more than endurance. It will demand defiance. The night air is thick with tension. The courtyard is silent, except for the scraping of sandals on stone and the occasional drip of water from a cracked fountain. The boy crouches in a shadowed corner, listening. Around him, whispers exchange forbidden knowledge, names, routes, rhythms of the guards' patrols. These are small acts of defiance, seemingly insignificant to those above, but monumental to those who endure. In the darkness, a woman, no more than 30, slides closer. Her name is lost to history, but in her eyes burns the memory of home, of family, of forests and seas now beyond reach. She whispers prayers under her breath, not for protection, but for remembrance. Each word is a rebellion, each syllable a quiet scream against the system that wants them erased. Above, the overseer counts in a ledger, oblivious. Every now and then a guard passes close enough to smell the human scent, to see a shadow shift, but nothing registers. Small victories. Silence becomes a shield. The boy and his companions learn to communicate in gestures, in subtle changes of breathing. They mark days with scratches, hidden beneath benches or along walls, tallying survival. Each mark is proof of existence, evidence that history cannot easily erase. Some even carve symbols into wooden beams, which centuries later archaeologists would find, a hidden ledger of resistance. One day, a minor miracle occurs. A shipment of provisions arrives. Rations are distributed but carefully measured. Hunger has become a tool, a method of control. But the captives use the moment to pass messages. Bread wrapped in leaves carries notes. Water containers conceal symbols. The system cannot account for imagination. Comment where you are watching from, and share this story with someone who needs to see how courage survives in shadows. This is where heroes are forged, not in open battle, but in the quiet persistence of memory and will. The boy observes the guards' routines and begins to memorize patterns. He notes which doors creak under pressure, which beams are hollow. Each observation is a seed of power. For the first time, he senses that the impossible might be possible. Not freedom, perhaps, but survival with dignity intact. He begins whispering instructions to the younger captives: how to avoid detection, how to conserve energy, how to preserve identity in small, almost invisible ways. Relics bear witness. In a hidden corner of the compound, a small figurine, once thought lost, is discovered centuries later, engraved with lines that correspond to these secret tallies. A fragment of a ledger mentions symbols scratched in shadows. Even the most oppressive system cannot obliterate evidence of quiet rebellion. Over time, psychological transformation unfolds. Those who once trembled now move with deliberate caution. Fear is still present, but it is accompanied by awareness, strategy, and shared purpose. Courage, once abstract, becomes tangible. Leadership emerges organically, in whispers, in subtle acts. The boy, once just a survivor, grows into a sentinel of memory, protector of stories, recorder of injustice, keeper of secret defiance. Micro cliffhangers punctuate their days. The sound of approaching footsteps sends hearts racing. A sudden shout halts conversation mid-word. A chain rattles somewhere nearby. Every moment is uncertainty, and that uncertainty sharpens the mind, strengthens resolve, hardens the spirit. Even as suffering continues, heat, hunger, exhaustion, separation, the captives find ways to reclaim agency. They sing quietly, remembering songs from home. They whisper lessons to children, teaching names and stories that no overseer can erase. They leave traces in the walls and beams. Every act is a declaration: we were here, we survived, we resisted. The psychological tension between despair and hope becomes almost unbearable, yet it fuels their survival. The boy and his companions understand that the human spirit can endure far more than the body. The overseers count lives, weigh bodies, note failures, but the unseen victories multiply. Memory, courage, and identity cannot be contained in ledgers. Artifacts endure: hidden carvings, scratched tallies, scraps of letters sewn into clothing. They are proofs of resistance that even later historians, who might have ignored or sanitized these events, cannot fully erase. Evidence survives in subtle, almost invisible forms, whispering to those who come after. And in this shadowed, oppressive place, the captives come to realize the truth. They are not only surviving, they are preserving a history that no system wanted to exist. Every night, as the courtyard falls silent and the stars shine faintly above, the boy whispers to himself and those around him, we endure, we remember, we resist, because the most dangerous power in this place is not weapons or chains. It is memory, courage, and the refusal to vanish. Years stretch forward like shadows across stone. Some captives are gone, taken inland, sold, or buried in records as if they never existed. Others survive, carrying with them scars both visible and invisible. The boy, now a young man, walks among them, older, hardened, and yet transformed. What he endured below deck, on the docks, in shadowed courtyards, has left an imprint deeper than chains ever could. A mind sharpened by fear, a soul fortified by quiet resistance, a memory that refuses erasure. The legacy of those years is not measured in freedom alone, but in survival as testimony. They leave behind marks, scratched walls, carved beams, symbols hidden beneath layers of plaster that speak to resilience. Archaeologists centuries later would uncover fragments of these lives, inscriptions on stone, ledger notes, letters tucked into goods, artifacts whose meaning becomes clear only when the human suffering behind them is understood. Each relic tells a story the oppressors tried to erase, each whisper preserved in hidden corners, each survival a small act of defiance against the machinery of cruelty. And yet, the psychological impact endures far beyond the physical. Survivors carry the knowledge of what humans are capable of, both the merciless efficiency of those who enforce suffering and the quiet ingenuity of those who resist it. Families broken, names lost, languages altered. The sense of self becomes a treasure to guard, a secret rebellion against erasure. Moral questions linger. How much of one's identity can survive when the world insists you do not exist? How can hope persist in a place built to crush it? For the young man, these questions shape every decision. Every glance at a child, every whispered memory of a sister, every act of quiet rebellion is a choice to assert life in the face of death, meaning in the face of neglect, presence in the face of historical disappearance. In surviving, he becomes both witness and chronicler, carrying forward the invisible history of those whose lives were deemed expendable. History's silence is not total. Surviving documents, ledgers in distant ports, fragmented letters, estate inventories begin to reveal the scale of the inhumanity. Scholars uncover hints of systemic cruelty, labour exploitation, and the unspoken networks that enabled these atrocities. Yet these records alone cannot convey the fear, the moral erosion, the whispered courage that kept human dignity alive. Only by imagining the textures of flesh and bone, the heat of sun on bare skin, the clinking of chains, the echo of whispered prayers, can one begin to understand the psychological and emotional toll. The boy, now a man, recognizes the transformation in himself and in others. Endurance becomes a quiet power, memory a shield, and the act of remembrance an essential resistance. He understands that the cost of survival is not only the body, but the preservation of identity, of history, of conscience. These survivors carry forward the fragmented, suppressed truths that empires and records tried to erase, truths that must be remembered so that injustice is neither repeated nor forgotten. Symbols take on weight. The cracked walls, carved beams, and hidden tally marks speak across centuries. They remind us of those who were treated as cargo, yet refused to vanish. They whisper the names that were never spoken aloud, the songs that were never recorded, the faces that the world attempted to erase. Each artifact, each fragment, is a testament to resilience against erasure, a declaration that even in the most oppressive circumstances, human dignity endures. If you felt what these people endured, subscribe and step deeper into the shadows with us. Their story demands remembrance. Their courage insists that we acknowledge the hidden horrors that were never meant to survive in history books. Ultimately, the story leaves a haunting truth. Oppression can crush bodies, dictate labour, and fracture communities, but it cannot fully crush memory, courage, or identity. The boy who once trembled on a sandy East African beach now exists as a witness across time. A vessel of human endurance, a keeper of stories, a bearer of the truth that injustice may attempt to erase, but courage refuses to surrender. These voices refuse to vanish. If you felt their courage, subscribe, share, and keep their memory alive. Their story deserves to survive.